Qiao, I treat you like my true love, why do you want to kill me? Zhang Ruochen roared and jumped forward, causing the gilt-made bed to creak as he sat up suddenly. Realizing that it was just a dream, Zhang Ruochen took a long breath and wiped the sweat on his forehead with his sleeves. No. That's not a dream. How could everything that happened between him and Princess Qiao be a dream? Zhang Ruochen was originally the only son of the Ming Emperor, one of the 9 great emperors of the Kunlun realm. At the age of only 16, he had cultivated to the perfection of the heavenly realm with his heaven-defying physique. However, just when he was becoming the #1 young person in the Kunlun world, he died at the hands of his childhood sweetheart and fiancée, Princess Qiao. Princess Qiao is the daughter of Qing Emperor, one of the 9 emperors. Emperor Ming and Emperor Qing were the best friends. Zhang Ruochen and Princess Qiao were even married at the fingertips. They grew up together and practiced together. One was heroic and the other was stunningly beautiful. They were called golden boys and girls. They could have become a legend in the cultivation world. Zhang Ruochen never expected that Princess Qiao would actually take action against him. After dying in the hands of Princess Qiao, when Zhang Ruochen woke up again, he found that he was already 800 years later. The former Princess Qiao quelled the 9 emperors' rebellion, unified the 9 kingdoms, established the First Central Empire, and became the ruler of the entire Kunlun realm, Queen Qiao. 800 years ago, the 9 emperors who dominated the Kunlun realm completely became a thing of the past and disappeared in the long river of history. The 9 emperors are dead, and the queen should stand. In this era, there is only one emperor, Queen Qiao, who rules the world and is powerful in all directions. Why did she want to kill me? How could her heart be so cruel? Or are women's hearts so cruel? Zhang Ruochen's eyes were sharp, his heart was as heavy as iron, and he was full of questions. However, no one could help him answer it. 800 years have passed, and things have changed. Except for Empress Qiao, who has peerless cultivation, she remains youthful and immortal. All those old friends have turned into lust and bones. Even the 9 emperors, who were so majestic at that time, have all disappeared from the world, leaving only a series of glorious stories that will be passed down by future generations. Squeak. A frail and beautiful woman in palace attire opened the door and walked in from the outside. She looked at Zhang Ruochen sitting on the bed with concerned eyes. "Chinner, are you having a nightmare again?" The beautiful woman in front of her is the princess of Yunwu County and Zhang Ruochen's mother, concubine Lin. The original owner of this body died on the bed 3 days ago because of his frail health. After Zhang Ruochen was killed by Princess Qiao, he woke up again and appeared in this body, bringing the young man who had died of illness back to life. What's even more coincidental is that the original owner of this body is also named Zhang Ruochen. When Zhang Ruochen just woke up, he still rejected concubine Lin. After all, in Zhang Ruochen's eyes, concubine Lin was just a stranger. However, after 3 days of contact, Zhang Ruochen gradually discovered that concubine Lin really cared about him and was so considerate. When she saw Zhang Ruochen was frightened out of a nightmare, she rushed to Zhang Ruochen's room immediately despite the cold weather. In his previous life, Zhang Ruochen had never met his biological mother. It is said that she died when she was born. Unexpectedly, after being killed by Princess Qiao, he was reborn in this body, giving him an extra mother and feeling the warmth of maternal love. Perhaps she still doesn't know that her Chinner died of illness 3 days ago. If she was told the truth, she might not be able to bear the blow of this bad news. Zhang Ruochen looked at the beautiful woman in front of him, his eyes softened, and he smiled slightly. "Mother, don't worry about me, it's just a dream." Concubine Lin wore a maroon hooded mink fur on her thin body. She sat beside Zhang Ruochen's bed, caressed Zhang Ruochen's forehead, and said worriedly, "It's been 3 nights, and you always wake up from nightmares. Every day her name is Qiao. Who is she?" It is naturally impossible for concubine Lin to associate the name Qiao with the Empress of the First Central Empire. Moreover, after Empress Qiao unified the Kunlun realm and established the First Central Empire, she became known as the female Holy Queen of great power and virtue. No one dared to mention the word Qiao at ordinary times. There will be taboos. Zhang Ruochen said, "It's nothing, mother, you heard wrong." Concubine Lin sighed and said, "In the future, you must never call the word Qiao directly, even in your dreams. That is the queen's first name. It is disrespectful to call the queen by her first name. Once someone hears it, will be executed." Zhang Ruochen nodded, squeezed his fingers tightly, and said meaningfully, "Absolutely not. From now on, I will be her nightmare." Concubine Lin looked at Zhang Ruochen, who was thin and pale, and sighed softly, feeling extremely sad in her heart. Although he was born in a county prince's family, he has been frail and sick since he was a child. He is already 16 years old and still can only lie in bed all year round. I'm afraid this is the only way he can stay like this for the rest of his life. Outside, there was a burst of messy footsteps. "What are you doing?" This is Yushu Palace. Who gave you the courage to barge in at will? A beautiful maid wanted to stop the 8th prince who broke in, but she was pushed lightly by the 8th prince and fell to the ground. Many meters away. The 8th prince is a warrior, and his cultivation has reached the late stage of the Huangji realm. One palm strike is enough to knock a stone plate weighing 300 kilograms 10 feet away, let alone a maid weighing 10 kilograms. With a flick of your fingers, she can be thrown away. The maid screamed and fell heavily to the ground, her left arm was broken. The 8th prince was wearing a golden robe with a jade belt around his waist. He had a strong body, slender arms and a steady pace. He walked into Yushu Palace and stared at the maid coldly. A slave dares to block my way. It's really looking for death. Behind the 8th prince were 6 guards wearing unicorn leather armor. They were tall and muscular. They were obviously powerful martial arts monks and belonged to the imperial guards of the palace. Concubine Lin heard the noise outside and calmed Zhang Ruochen's mood, then closed the door and walked out. She stared at the 8th prince standing outside, frowned slightly, and said, "Your Highness, the 8th prince, this is Yushu Palace. Even if you are a prince, you can't break in." The 8th prince Zhang Ji raised his head and stared at Concubine Lin, and said loudly, "The queen has ordered that the palace of Concubine Lin and her 9th brother be changed to the Purple E Palace. From now on, the owner of Yushu Palace will be this prince's biological mother Xiao Concubine." Concubine Lin's expression changed slightly. She had expected this day to come, but she didn't expect it to come so quickly. Concubine Lin smiled miserably and said, "Is the queen going to drive us mother and son out of Yushu Palace so soon? Okay. Tomorrow, Chener and I will move to the side hall." The 8th prince said, "I'm sorry. My mother said that she wants to move into Yushu Palace tonight. Please ask Concubine Lin to move to the side hall now." Concubine Lin knew that Zhang Ruochen was frail and sick and could not withstand the hardships, so she said with a somewhat pleading tone, "Your Highness, the 8th prince, you also know that your 9th brother is frail and sick. It's late at night and the weather is cold, just in case." The 8th prince smiled coldly and said without any politeness, "Concubine Lin, there are so many pitiable people in this world, but not everyone deserves to be pitied. Since the 9th brother is weak and sick, what are you still doing in the world? He is your 9th brother." Concubine Lin wanted to say something else, but suddenly, the door behind her was pushed open. Zhang Ruochen was so weak that he could barely stand by supporting the doorpost with his hands, staring at the 8th prince not far away. His seemingly frail body seemed to contain an unyielding will, and he said, "No need to ask them, we will move out now. Chener, why did you get out of bed? It's cold outside, why don't you go back soon?" Concubine Lin quickly stepped forward to support Zhang Ruochen, fearing that he would catch the cold. Zhang Ruochen stubbornly shook his head and said, "Mother, we don't need to ask anyone. Sooner or later, we will come back here again." Concubine Lin looked at Zhang Ruochen's firm eyes and seemed to be infected by his emotions. She nodded with tears in her eyes. Concubine Lin and Shen supported Zhang Ruochen and walked out of Yushu Palace step by step, except for the maid who was pushed out by the 8th prince and broke her arm. None of the other servants left Yushu Palace with them. Everyone could see that Concubine Lin and the 9th prince had completely lost their power, and it would be difficult for them to gain a foothold in the prince's palace. They were originally servants of Yushu Palace, and now they naturally and wisely chose to stay in Yushu Palace, and all went to please the 8th prince, the new master. The Z side hall is usually where the disgraced princess lives. It is very remote and covered with fallen leaves. It seems that no one has lived there for a long time. The night is deep and the cold wind is blowing. Sitting on the cold stone bench, Zhang Ruochen's thin body was wrapped in a coat, but he still felt cold. This physical body is too weak. Only by practicing martial arts can the body gradually become stronger. Otherwise, even if I am the son of a county prince now, I will still be at the mercy of others. Zhang Ruochen thought to himself. 800 years have passed, and Zhang Ruochen doesn't know where he can go now. Since God arranged for him to be reborn in this body, he must become stronger, whether it is for revenge against Queen Qi Yao in the future or for his mother who takes good care of him. The humiliation and cold treatment I suffered today was entirely because I was too weak to resist, unable to control my own destiny, and even the place where I lived was occupied by others. If you want to gain the respect of others and obtain a warm and comfortable living environment, you must become a warrior and prove your ability. In the Kunlun world, if you want to become a warrior, you must first activate the Mark of Divine Martial Arts. The so-called Mark of Divine Martial Arts is the qualification given to humans by the gods to practice martial arts. Those who have not opened the Mark of Divine Martial Arts will never be able to cultivate their true energy and become a strong person in the world. Zhang Ruochen is already 16 years old and still has not opened the Seal of Divine Martial Arts. After the age of 16, you miss the best age for practicing martial arts. Even if you turn on the Mark of Divine Martial Arts, you won't be able to achieve much. They are both the sons of Prince Yunwu, so why is the 8th prince so superior to others? Can Zhang Ruochen and concubine Lin be driven out of Yushu Palace? It was because the 8th prince opened the Mark of Divine Martial Arts when he was 10 years old and was now a young warrior in the late Huangji realm. As long as I activate the Shenwu seal, I can practice the 9 Heavens Ming Emperor Sutra. With the mystery of the 9 Heavens Ming Emperor Sutra, even if I have missed the best training age, it is still possible to catch up with other geniuses and become a master again. A strong martial artist. The 9 Heavens Ming Emperor Sutra is the supreme cultivation manual of Emperor Ming. Apart from Emperor Ming, only Zhang Ruochen knows the complete cultivation method of 9 Heavens Ming Emperor Sutra. Tomorrow is the sacrificial ceremony. I hope to get the approval of the gods and open the seal of divine martial arts. Zhang Ruochen clenched his fists, full of desire to open the seal of divine martial arts. After concubine Lin tidied up the room, she came over to help Zhang Ruochen. "Chen'er, please go to bed early. Tomorrow, we have to attend the sacrifice ceremony." "Mom, don't worry, I will definitely be able to activate the Shenwu seal tomorrow," Zhang Ruochen said. "Yes. Mother believes in you." Concubine Lin took a deep look at Zhang Ruochen and sighed softly in her heart. In fact, she had no hope that Zhang Ruochen would be able to activate the seal of divine martial arts. After all, Zhang Ruochen was already 16 years old. After the age of 16, it would be almost impossible for him to be able to activate the seal of divine martial arts. However, as a mother, she must encourage her child and give him confidence.